Hi everyone, Joellen here. Welcome to Washed in Watercolor. For today's lesson, we are going to paint from a master copy by John Singer Sargent. I happen to love the colors in this piece and the soft indication of mountains. There's a beautiful diagonal flow that goes from the left-hand corner and flows over to the right-hand corner. And John Singer Sargent clearly uses a lot of water to get the beautiful flow and movement in this painting. Before I start, I'd like to go over my supplies with you. I am using block paper by Arches, and it is a cold press 140 pound 100% cotton paper, and it's in a block, meaning that there are a lot of sheets kind of stuck together, so we use one sheet at a time. The colors on my palette for today include white gouache, Winsor lemon yellow, quinacridone gold, Winsor orange red shade, Winsor red, quinacridone magenta, perylene maroon, Winsor violet, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue green shade, sap green, perylene green, burnt sienna, and sepia. I mostly use Winsor Newton professional grade paints. Other supplies include a tub of water, Viva paper towels, the smooth type, not the textured type, watercolor paint brushes, including Princeton Neptune Quill, a size 6, a Princeton Neptune Script, and that is a size 1, and a Rosemary number 402, and that is also a round, and then a soft toothbrush, and an optional half roll of drafting tape. Okay, let's get started. I begin by wetting my paper, and this can always be a little tricky because you don't want too little water and you don't want too much water, so this is something that just takes a lot of practice. The brush that I'm using, this Neptune by Princeton, it actually holds a lot of water, which I prefer, and it's going to allow me to get nice smooth blended washes. You can also see that I've put a little bit of drafting tape going around the perimeter of my painting. It's 1/2-inch drafting tape, and I really like the effect because when I'm done with my piece, I pull off the tape and it really just gives it a nice finished professional look. I am starting with a little bit of Winsor orange, red shade, and perylene maroon. And to the side, I'm going to put just a little bit of Winsor violet. And I just think the combination of all of these will be perfect for the sky. Now, as I drop this down, I'm thinking about kind of this diagonal sweep going from left to right. I don't know why, but when I look at this painting, that's kind of what I feel. So my instinct is just to kind of move in a diagonal way. Now, because my paper is wet, I'm getting these nice kind of soft blended areas. I've also added just a little touch of phthalo blue to the right hand side. Now, as you can see, I can use my brush just like you would a sponge, just to go in and lift up some paint. So if I have a paper towel in one hand, I can wipe the excess water off, make sure my brush is clean, and then just go in and pick up some of the paint, and I can still retain that kind of nice soft edge. I'm adding a little bit of Winsor violet to a little bit of my Winsor orange red shade, and I think it's a perfect color for the lower left hand side. Again, I'm keeping those diagonals going, and one of the things I really love about this work by John Singer Sargent, just all the colors in it. The colors are really beautiful, so you can change it up if you want with colors you may like, but I just think the colors that he chose were really absolutely perfect. Here I'm mixing in some of my perylene green. Over in the right hand corner, you're going to see that there's this like really nice darker area, and by getting the values a little bit darker there, it actually creates this atmospheric perspective, and it pulls the foreground forward, pushes the mountains back a little bit. So this combination that I'm using with a little bit of my violet along with my perylene green, I feel is going to be perfect for this darker spot in the lower right hand foreground. Now, as you can see, I've used a little bit of my Winsor Orange red shade up in the sky, and I've mixed that with a little bit of my Winsor Violet, and together I've used that on the left-hand side to get the mountains, just the indication of the mountains on that lower side. Now I'm dipping into a little bit of my perylene green, and that's just this really nice kind of foresty green without too much chroma, but it has a nice dark value, and I am putting that on the right hand side where there's a little bit of depth and darkness. Now I'm adding a little bit of quinacridone gold along with a little bit of lemon yellow, and it will just give that little pop of gold or yellow in that corner. And again, it's really just blending nicely, and I'm working with these long diagonal strokes. As you can see, I'm cleaning things up a little bit with my damp brush. Just remember, you can wipe your brush off on your paper towel between passes. I'm picking up a little bit of ultramarine blue and a little bit of phthalo blue just to add some touches to the foreground. This painting is titled Mountain Fire. So these little bits of red kind of sticking and poking up on the mountainside, I'm kind of assuming that they're there to represent the fire. So a little bit of my maroon perylene, I think, works really well for those little touches. When watercolor dries, it always dries a little bit lighter. So now I need to go in and touch up those dark areas again to give them even a darker value. I'm now cutting in for the mountain. I want to create that, but I'm going to create it by painting the negative space. So that means I'm going to go around the outline of the side of the mountain by adding in a little bit of a darker sky and then just pushing and adding that paint up into the sky that's already there. The left side mountain is a little bit different. Instead of cutting in for the negative space on this side, I'm going to paint more in the positive. There's a little bit of a purple line that you'll see, a little bit of the mountain suggested. So I'll paint that line, and then I'm going to take my damp brush again and I'm going to soften that down into the mountain. Now here I'm adding a little bit of white gouache to my blue in order to get these distant mountains. John Singer Sargent really was known for putting a little bit of gouache into some of his watercolor paintings, and all gouache is, it is just like watercolor, but it is opaque, so it will just give that little thick layer, and I'll be able maybe to overlap a little bit more on top of the watercolors that are already down. As my paper dries up, it's able to hold a little bit more form with each and every stroke. So again, I'm going to come back in, maybe add a little bit more depth by adding a darker value to the work, and where there are little bits of the fire kind of poking up, I'm going to layer that, and you can see that the strokes really kind of hold their position and not diffuse so much. Just make sure that when you're adding these drier strokes, your paper may be damp, and you want to make sure your brush isn't loaded with lots of water. Otherwise, that water is going to push the paint you already have down, and you'll get what we call a blossom. just going to continue to pick at this piece, a little bit here and there. I'm using my paper towel to lift a little bit. I'm adding in darker colors. I'm trying to notice if there are any little bits of red or darker value happening, just trying to match the values to the painting. But I'm gonna just continue to pick at this until I feel I'm close enough and have finished. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I had a lot of fun painting this John Singer Sargent work. I wish you a great day, and I hope to see you again. Bye for now.